My name is Andricka Thomas, and I'm presenting an ethical framework case for my Rutgers ethics course on Whole Foods grocery store. In this presentation, I will present my ethical framework outline, briefly discuss the background of the case, and then use the ethical framework to derive alternate courses of action and present an ethical recommendation. There are 5 primary steps in my ethical framework outline. I first want to identify the issue and root cause of the situation. Before coming up with any courses of actions or recommendations, it's imperative to understand the issue at hand and identify any underlying root causes to the issue before making a recommendation for action. Next, I want to identify the stakeholders involved. We want to understand who would care about this issue, who will be affected either positively or negatively, and how the opinions or sentiments of those identified groups will affect the company's reputation. Then, I want to come up with multiple courses of action so we may identify various ways to resolve or address the issue. Although the courses of actions may look separate, our resolution may involve more than one option in whole or in part. At this point, we're looking for innovative and creative tactics to deal with the situation in an unbiased and objective way. After I evaluate those courses of action, then we'll make a decision together and finally analyze it after the actions are taken. Let's get into a little bit of background about the case. This case study is about Whole Foods CEO John Mackey, who made statements on his discontentment with the Affordable Care Act as a solution to the nation's healthcare issues. Mackey's stance is that healthcare is not a right, but the responsibility of the individual to lead and maintain a healthy lifestyle so they don't need as much medical care. Mackey does believe that employers should provide comprehensive healthcare coverage because he offers it to his employees who work 30 or more hours a week. This is actually a pretty stark difference than many of his other CEO counterparts who don't offer the same level of coverage at those amount of hours worked. The ethical challenge here, as I see it, is that he offers a political opinion from a personal perspective that alienated many of his consumer base by stating healthcare is not a right, but an individual responsibility to live better in healthier lifestyles in order to prevent the need for more medical care. The problem is that he makes this personal statement as he uses the healthcare coverage model of his company as an example as to how the country should approach healthcare on a macro level. Now the statement is about business and doesn't sound so personal anymore. Not to mention that the personal statement he made is quite a controversial one that did not need to be stated to get his point across, which was ultimately to offer alternatives to ACA. As a leader of the organization, he cannot make public personal statements on topics that affect his business so directly and expect those statements to still remain and be interpreted as personal. The key stakeholders I've identified for this group include CEOs of other business owners who have a stake in seeing ACA being repealed, Whole Foods employees, and their customers. You can see a few pros and cons of each group. And I'm not going to insult you by going over each, but as you can see, each one does have pros and cons, and we'll look at these and consider these when we evaluate or create our courses of actions in the next slide. So here I present 3 primary courses of action. In my first recommendation, I ask that he consult with his communications director for a review of the article in an effort to mitigate the potential for controversy. In fact, I recommend you do that in all cases, in all courses of action when dealing with public statements. Since Mackey claims he was just answering a call for recommendations from President Obama, he should have taken a softer approach to offer resolution rather than only criticism and making the bold statement of whether or not healthcare was a citizen's right. That issue is a very controversial one, and the statement was actually not needed in order to push his message of the importance of living a healthy lifestyle as a preventative care measure, and to share what exactly was working for his company in terms of how he offers healthcare coverage to his employees. Rather than sending a message of it's your fault if you get sick because you didn't live a healthy lifestyle, perhaps shift a little bit and send a more inclusive message of healthcare is all of our responsibilities, and this is an opportunity to promote living healthy and educating consumers on how they can do their part to stay healthy. In the second course of action, Mackey could have used the op-ed piece to promote the successes of health care coverage at Whole Foods without making the assertion on whether or not he thought it was a right of employees. And thirdly, in terms of what one should say now, nothing. Stay away from politics and promote your organization and its values. If you stick to that, you should stay in good shape. So at this point, I actually recommend that Mackey say nothing else. He caused additional damage when he tried to further clarify his statements and sentiments concerning the issue of healthcare coverage and his thoughts on whether it was a right. He should let this conversation die down and shift it towards supporting the community living a healthy lifestyle before he alienates any other members of his consumer base, which is largely liberal and who do not necessarily share his views. Now, if Mackey insists on making statements like these, as his communications director, advise him to shift his message to educating his stakeholders on how living a healthy lifestyle can prevent sickness, and then offer resources and information to his stakeholders and community to support a healthy lifestyle. Since Whole Food engages in community outreach, I think it would be a great gesture if the company started projects in low-income areas to help provide access to healthier food in poor communities, especially since Whole Foods is rarely found in such areas and is usually out of those citizens' price ranges. That concludes my presentation, and I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful evening.